Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where enduring wisdom meets the strength of presence, and where we uncover the truths modern society refuses to teach men. A woman's touch, gentle, brief, or even accidental, can speak volumes. But most men ignore the language of touch. They second-guess themselves, miss signals, or worse, chase validation from gestures they never truly understood. Today, we're going to break that cycle. This video isn't about game playing or manipulation. It's about decoding what women often express not with words, but through body language, specifically when she initiates touch. From ancient lovers to iconic seductresses in history, touch has always been more than contact. It's a test, a signal, and sometimes an invitation. We'll walk through emotional intelligence, grounded relationship psychology, and forgotten wisdom that empowers you to interpret her energy, not chase her approval. This isn't about overanalyzing, it's about awareness, because the man who understands touch doesn't need to ask what it meant, he already knows. We'll cover what her touch says about her level of comfort and attraction, when it's genuine and when it's just social, the hidden power of masculine stillness in response, and how history's greatest men understood female cues without losing their sense of self. So if you're ready to shift from confusion to clarity, from neediness to mastery, you're in the right place. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment if you've ever second-guessed what her touch was trying to say. Your presence here helps spread this message to the men who need it most. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Ancient Power of Touch. What she's really saying without words. In every civilization, from the golden palaces of ancient Egypt to the romantic courts of Renaissance Europe, a woman's touch has held meaning beyond words. And yet today, most modern men have lost the ability to recognize this ancient language. They either dismiss it as nothing or overreact, reading into things that aren't there. But the truth lies in the middle, and it's far more powerful than most men realize. Let's go back to ancient Greece, where philosophers and poets observed that touch was the gateway to a person's emotional world. Socrates once said, "Touch is the echo of the soul." And for women, especially in romantic and social dynamics, touch is often a subtle but strategic communicator. When a woman initiates touch, whether it's a light graze on your arm, a hand on your shoulder, or brushing against you, it can mean one of several things. But first and foremost, it's a test of emotional resonance. Men often ask, why did she touch me? The better question is, what emotion did she want to feel or evoke in that moment? A woman's touch isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional. She's feeling something and she's trying to sense what you feel back, without words, without commitment, without putting herself out there too much. And here's the key, how you respond tells her everything she needs to know. Let's use a historical example, Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt. Her intelligence and political power were unmatched, but her allure came from her deep understanding of presence and body language. Cleopatra knew that a gentle, unexpected touch during a conversation could stir a man's curiosity, test his emotional awareness, and pull him into her world, all without saying a single word. She didn't ask for attention, she guided it. She knew that a single touch, placed correctly, could shift the balance of power in her favor. And guess what? Modern women aren't that different. The confident ones still use touch as a way to test your awareness and your emotional grounding. It's a silent message. Do you feel this connection too? Or sometimes, will you chase or will you remain grounded? Too many men fail this test in two ways. 1. They ignore it, afraid to make a move, or acknowledge anything emotional is happening. 2. They overreact, immediately reading it as romantic interest, then rushing to impress, flirt, or escalate too quickly. Both responses show a lack of emotional intelligence. And here's the truth, emotionally intelligent men respond to her touch with presence, not performance. That means you don't flinch, you don't lean in desperately, and you don't pretend to be cold either. You stay rooted, calm, present. You let the moment breathe, you let her feel your energy and know that you don't need her touch to feel worthy, but you notice it. This is powerful. Why? Because it's the exact opposite of what most men do. and that contrast is magnetic. In the Japanese samurai code of Bushido, warriors trained themselves not just in battle, but in emotional discipline. The greatest samurai could read tension, energy, and emotion without a single word being spoken. The principle was simple: the man who reacts the least holds the most power. When you apply this to modern dating, it means this. If a woman touches your arm and you immediately light up like a boy who's never been touched before, you lose your frame. But if she touches you and you stay grounded, warm, but composed, you pass the test. You become the rare man who doesn't need her signal to feel valuable, which makes her even more curious about you. This emotional strength isn't about playing games. It's about being attuned, reading signals without needing them to validate you. When you do this, you move from being the pursuer to the man she wants to pursue. In today's world, where women are constantly surrounded by men seeking attention, the man who doesn't seek but observes is unforgettable. So the next time she touches your arm, ask yourself, is this situational or intentional? Is there eye contact, a pause, a subtle smile? Does she linger even for a half second longer than needed? These are your cues. But remember, it's not about her signal, it's about your response, because that's what separates a boy seeking approval from a man living in his purpose. Drop this in the comments if you feel it. I attract, not chase. Chapter 2. From Signal to Strategy, Understanding the Emotional Intent Behind Her Touch. Now that we've uncovered the ancient language of touch and how powerful women throughout history have used it, it's time to go deeper into the intention behind her action, because no matter how casual it may seem, when a woman touches you first, she's rarely doing it by accident. Let's make something clear. Touch is a strategy, not always in a manipulative way, but as a deeply social, emotional, and instinctual tool. Women, especially those in tune with their femininity, use touch to test, to connect, and sometimes to gain power. The way you handle that moment, calmly and consciously, can either raise your value in her eyes or quietly lower it. Let's take a historical example: Josephine and Napoleon Bonaparte. While the world remembers Napoleon as a military genius, he was completely captivated, sometimes even psychologically undone, by Josephine. She wasn't just beautiful, she understood influence. She could touch his shoulder, tilt her head, and redirect his focus without ever raising her voice. Josephine knew how to communicate with energy, not just words. Every touch was calculated, every gesture was meant to evoke a feeling, to see how he would respond. That's the same principle many women use today, but now in cafes, clubs, corporate offices, and social events. That tap on the forearm, that friendly shove when she laughs, that slight brush as she walks by. She's watching, observing, not just how you react, but what your reaction says about who you are. Here's what many men don't understand. A woman often touches you not because she's already fully attracted, but because she's deciding if she could be. Touch is often not a declaration of interest, it's an exploration, a psychological moment of, who are you really? So how should a man respond? Here's where emotional intelligence comes in. You have to stop asking, what does she want from me? And start asking, what is she trying to feel in this moment? Touch is rarely about the man, it's about the experience she's creating. She might want to feel more connected. She might want reassurance. She might want to see if you have the emotional stillness to handle her feminine energy. Let's tie this back to something powerful from the teachings of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that emotional mastery is the foundation of freedom. Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. When a woman touches you, your mind can race with stories. She likes me, she's flirting, she wants more. But none of that is rooted in truth until you learn to observe without attaching need. And ironically, when you detach from need, you become infinitely more attractive. So the strategy is simple. Stay grounded in your energy. Don't overreact. Mirror her energy subtly. A soft smile, a calm nod. Let her feel you noticed, but don't make it a big deal. Watch her eyes. If they soften or linger, that's your real confirmation. And most importantly, don't initiate touch just to reciprocate. Let her lead if she's testing. Let her see you're not desperate for affection. This restraint, this calm, masculine presence, is what creates polarity. She initiates touch, but you don't instantly give away your emotional center. You remain rooted, present, unshaken. And what happens? She becomes more intrigued. She leans in more, because the deeper truth is this: women don't crave men who chase validation. They crave men who radiate inner validation. In psychology, there's a term called reciprocal vulnerability. It means that people become emotionally bonded when they share personal moments and take small risks, like a touch. But this only works when the other person meets that vulnerability with grounded openness, not anxious need. So remember this: when she reaches out with a touch, she's not giving you the green light to jump in. She's giving you an opportunity to show you can hold space. And if you pass that test emotionally, energetically, and with subtle confidence, then you become the man who doesn't just respond to her touch. You become the one she wants to reach for again. Let the other men chase. You lead with presence. Drop this in the comments if you're focused on growth. I move with purpose. Chapter 3. The masculine frame. Why she touches you to test your energy. We've talked about the power and purpose behind a woman's touch. Now let's get into the real heart of what's happening when she initiates it. She's testing your masculine frame. This isn't about dominance, it's about emotional gravity. When a woman touches your arm, plays with your watch, brushes your hand, or adjusts your collar, she might seem playful or spontaneous, but underneath it there's something deeper going on. She's feeling for something solid, a grounded masculine presence she can respond to. Let's pull wisdom from the Roman Empire, where masculinity wasn't defined by aggression, but by self-control and presence. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength is your frame. In relationships, your frame is the emotional structure you hold. It's your mood, mindset, presence, and inner beliefs, all of which influence how you respond to the world around you, especially to feminine energy. And women, consciously or not, touch to test that frame. Can you hold your space? Will you overreact? Will you soften too quickly or lean in with desperation? Here's the test in action. A woman is laughing with you, and during the moment, she gently touches your forearm. If your immediate instinct is to light up, get nervous, or initiate a move, she sees it, not as a red flag, but as a sign of instability. You're reactive. She's moved your emotional center with something as simple as a touch. But when you hold your frame, staying calm, collected, and simply acknowledging the moment without giving it more weight than it deserves, you show power. That power doesn't need validation. It doesn't chase closeness. It simply is. This is why so many emotionally grounded men are incredibly attractive. They don't overinterpret or overinvest in signals. Instead, they observe. They stay rooted in their reality, and they let the woman come closer on her own. She touches, he doesn't flinch. She flirts, he doesn't beg. She tests, he doesn't fail. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. One of the greatest examples of this in history is Winston Churchill's relationship with his wife, Clementine. Churchill was a man of intense pressure, leading Britain through war, facing crisis after crisis. But at home, Clementine often tried to soften him, calm him, touch him during moments of tension. He never rejected her, but he never surrendered his emotional posture either. He was warm, but unmoved, loving, but still centered. And she respected him more because of it. You see, the more emotionally anchored you are, the more a woman will want to step into your orbit. Feminine energy doesn't want to be met with need. It wants to be received with strength. And this is where most men fail. Not because they're weak, but because they never learned this truth. You don't need to react to everything she does. You need to remain the calm in her emotional storm. When a woman touches you, she's asking the silent question. Can you hold me without trying to control me? And the man who can answer that with his energy, not with words, is rare. He's the man she trusts, the one she opens up to, the one she respects and desires without needing a single performance. So how do you develop that frame? Practice emotional stillness. Let the moment come to you. Train your nervous system. If you feel excitement rise, breathe through it instead of acting on it. Remind yourself, I am the observer, not the reactor. And most importantly, never let her touch define your mood. Your mood is yours. That's the foundation of your masculine presence, because the second a woman can control your emotional state with a touch, she knows you're not yet standing on solid ground. But the moment she realizes you're unshaken, not in a cold way, but in a powerful, composed way, her respect deepens. And here's what separates high-value men from the rest. They know that presence is more seductive than words. Calmness is more magnetic than charm. And being unfazed isn't being distant, it's being deeply rooted. So when she initiates touch, remember, she's not asking you to respond with action, she's asking you to respond with energy. Drop this in the comments if you feel unshakable. I Stay Rooted. Chapter 4. The Silent Language of Desire, Turning Awareness into Power. At this point, you've learned that when a woman initiates touch, she's not just being kind, friendly, or flirty. She's communicating quietly but deliberately. She's testing your awareness, feeling your energy, and often deciding if you're someone worth surrendering her trust to. But now comes the final evolution, turning your awareness into silent power. Because once you understand the emotional meaning behind her touch, you have a choice to lead with wisdom or fall into ego-driven responses. Let's start with one of the most iconic love affairs in history. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal, the couple behind the Taj Mahal. The emperor didn't just build a monument of love, he built it from years of devotion and emotional understanding. Their bond wasn't just rooted in passion, it was built on his ability to protect her emotions and lead with strength. Mumtaz was known to lean into Shah Jahan's energy often, not just physically, but emotionally. She trusted his frame, his stillness, his presence. That's why her love endured. That's why her memory inspired a wonder of the world. The modern man must take this ancient truth and apply it. So when she touches you, what do? Here's what a grounded, emotionally intelligent man does. 1. He doesn't immediately escalate. He lets the touch breathe. He lets the moment stretch. He doesn't rush to close the gap. He respects the power of silence. 2. He reads the environment. Is this a private moment or a public one? Is she initiating contact because she feels safe or because she's seeking control? 3. He listens with more than his ears. What is her body saying? Is her posture open? Is her face soft? Or is it nervous and uncertain? 4. He remains calm and slow. Fast reactions come from fear. Slow energy communicates confidence. She will feel the difference. But here's the real secret. You don't have to do anything at all to create attraction from her touch. You only need to exist in your most centered self. She's not looking for performance. She's feeling for polarity. When a woman touches you, she's not trying to be aggressive. She's trying to see if she can be feminine in your presence. That means emotional, spontaneous, warm, maybe even a little chaotic. If you collapse under that pressure, she'll lose trust in your frame. But if you hold your ground, gently and firmly, she'll feel safe enough to relax into her own softness. This is what creates lasting polarity. And this is why so many men fail, not because they're bad people, but because they've never been taught how powerful their calmness actually is. Here's a visual metaphor. Think of her touch like a feather landing on water. If the water ripples wildly, she knows it's unstable. But if the surface is still and accepting, the feather is held in perfect harmony. Be the still water. Be the man whose heart is not desperate for her affection, but open to connection without needing it. Let her wonder why you didn't rush in. Let her feel your energy before your words. Let her be drawn in, not pulled. Because women, especially those in tune with their feminine essence, are not seeking to be conquered, they are seeking to be understood. And the man who can understand her without chasing, interpret without reacting, and feel without losing himself, that man is unforgettable. So here's the final truth. When she touches you, don't look for what she wants. Feel what she's sensing. And remember, her body will say what her lips never will, but only the man rooted in presence will be able to hear it. Drop this in the comments if you feel the message, "She feels my presence." Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where men don't just react, they rise. Where we don't chase validation, but attract through presence, purpose, and deep awareness. Now you know, when a woman initiates touch, it's never just about physical contact. It's an unspoken invitation, a quiet test, a subtle signal calling you to lead with grounded strength. Most men miss it, but you won't. You've learned how to recognize her intent, how to hold your emotional frame, and how to let her feminine energy meet your masculine stillness without losing your power. That's not just attraction, that's emotional mastery. So whether it's a playful tap, a gentle brush, or a moment that catches you off guard, you're ready. Not to impress her, not to chase her, but to lead with unshakable awareness. And remember, your presence is the most powerful response. Thank you for watching. Like this video if it spoke to something deeper inside you. Share it with a brother who needs this wisdom. Subscribe to join a movement of men reclaiming their power. And drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every word, and your perspective matters. You're not here by accident. You're here because you're evolving. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, stay golden.